8 keys to authentic living. Key number 5, the challenge of authentic living, part 1. Hello lovelies, it's Tiina here from Own, kind of wonderful, helping you reclaim who you truly are. So key number 5, which is part 1 of why it can be so challenging to choose to live authentically. In part 1, we're looking at the challenges of authentic living from the outside world. So, for example, we've got cultural expectations. So, if we just look at a different culture from our own, we can quite easily see what kind of expectations there are in that culture. Sometimes we have a bit of a harder time seeing the expectations of our own culture because we just take those for granted. That's just how life is, right? This is the right way to live. Their way is different and weird. Ours is totally normal. So we might not that easily capture those expectations that are put on us. And of course, as we talked about in the last episode, this intrinsic need that we have as humans to have true connections and belong. And sometimes when we don't fit into a mold, also comes the fear and the absolutely the real potential of not being allowed in the group anymore. If we look backwards in time, there was a time that if we were rejected from the group, we'd be dead. And if we think about how do we punish people for doing something wrong. Now, I'm not talking about authenticity here. People in prison have been authentic and then put away in prison, but just looking at how we punish people and what is the worst kind of punishment we have. Number 1, we get removed from society into something we call a prison. And then in prison, if we get further punished, we get put into isolation. And isolation is, of course, quite scary for very, very many people. There's no connection with anyone at that point. You're taken out of the group completely. So that just tells us that, because we use it as a means of punishment, that it is something that we don't like, right? So culturally, we have certain expectations that we need to play into. And of course, that means that we have certain expectations when we're a man and a woman. And sometimes when we step out of those expectations, we risk being pushed out. At school, it's not like we're totally encouraged to be authentic at school. At school, we need to fit in and we need to preferably be quiet until we're told to talk. And I'm thinking about how these days, those kids who are really expressive, what do we call them these days? And of course, the whole school system that we have currently is just set up so that we become very good workers. It's not an encouragement of, be who you are and shine as a star. It's, please, can you just fit in so that we all can have a nice, quiet life? Can you just be quiet and learn? Now, some teachers watching might say, absolutely not. I don't agree with you, and I'd love to have that debate. I think, is it Ken Robbins, right? Ken Robinson or Ken Robbins? The name escapes me now, but the wonderful TED talk that he has given of how schools kill creativity. And I think that there could be a little line with schools kill authenticity as well. Organized religion, again, probably doesn't exactly encourage authentic living. Again, it's about fitting into a certain mold. So in that plane as well, we're told to be a certain way, and a certain way is acceptable. And of course, that can be quite big. It doesn't have to be a very narrow way to be, but it can be big. But if you don't fit into that one, then there's questions asked. Family, of course, I think, is it again Brené Brown who talks about how difficult it is when you are very different from your family? Like if you come from a very academic family and you are the sporty type, how difficult it can be for that family to have that acceptance of, well, one of us is super sporty and not academic at all, you know, and vice versa. And of course, there are those values that we have as a family. We have ideas of what is a good life and what isn't a good life. So sometimes when those family expectations are very strict, or you can't step out of them, you know, sometimes the choice is, do I want to be part of my family, or do I want to be who I really am and potentially lose the connection with my family? And that's a big thing, to lose your connection to your family. Now, of course, in most cases it doesn't come to that, but sometimes it can come to that. Ooh, politics is another one. We all need role models in life, and I think our leaders set the tone for how we behave towards one another. You know, as soon as we can see more of an acceptance of bias, racism, sexism at the top level, or corruption at the top level, that trickles down super quick into other people. You know, we take that as a cue of, okay, well, now it's all okay to behave like this. And politics these days is a dirty game. And those are the leaders of our countries. And we also set the tone in politics about how diverse we can be as a population in a country. What is acceptable? And of course, that fluctuates quite a lot through the ages in all countries, really. But it's interesting to historically look at that and kind of see, okay, how has that affected to a level of the individual? Media, of course, is a big player in this. What is acceptable and what isn't acceptable? Who can you be and who can't you be? You know, a lot of mixed messages going on. Be yourself, but only if you are within this little box. Then you can be yourself. If you are outside of that box, then no, please. Then you can be ridiculed over and over and over again. So if we look at all of those bits, so we looked at cultural expectations, family, school, religion, politics, and media, and that none of those like super appreciates authenticity, or none of those kind of go, authenticity is great stuff. That's a lot of stuff that's there to kind of go, this authentic living is like hard work. And that's just looking at stuff from the outside. Next time we're looking at the inside blockages, right? But in our culture today, it's very much about looking good, having lots of likes, being popular is actually more important than feeling good. Like those trumpet. It doesn't matter if you feel like shit, but as long as you look good, as long as you get likes, then you're successful. That equals success. And that's really up, you know, avoiding the F word there. Really is crazy that that's how it is these days. What's your thoughts on it? Let me know. Right, so as I said, next time it's more about the internal blockages. Come with me and watch that one and let me know your thoughts on that one as well. But before that, subscribe, share this video with others. If you gain something from it, maybe they will gain something from it too. I'll see you next time. Bye now.